Alright, so quick quiz. So in 2018, the most comprehensive study ever done on the impacts of climate change in a particular industry came out of Oxford University. According to the lead researcher of that study, what is the single biggest thing someone can do to reduce their impact on the planet? Is it flying less? Is it driving an electric vehicle? Is it recycling? Or is it something else? And before you give your answer, keep in mind that today, most talk about climate change surrounds emissions, which the study did look at, but they also accounted for land use, fresh water use, eutrophication, which in this context, to keep it simple, is basically when chemicals enter the water, which results in the death of aquatic animals, and acidification, or acid rain, basically. And when you think about it, it makes sense to look at things outside of emissions, right? Because, even if you're doing great on emissions, but you destroy your oceans, you're still f***ed. So now knowing that, any ideas? So it's not flying less, it's not driving an electric vehicle, and it's not recycling. Thank God too, because I feel like I never know if I'm putting stuff in the right can. The answer has an even bigger impact than all of those combined. I'm just kidding, I don't know about the combined thing, don't quote me on that one. And so the answer is eating more plants. Specifically, the lead researcher says that for a typical average consumer, diet change isn't just the single biggest way to reduce your greenhouse gas emissions. It's the single best way to reduce your land use, your impact on biodiversity, the nitrogen and phosphorus pollution caused by your food, the acid rain, and water use. And the diet change he's talking about is excluding all animal products from your diet. And I didn't make up the electric vehicle and flying thing. He specifically says it is far bigger than cutting down on your flights or buying an electric car. And so you might be thinking, well, what if I just buy the sustainable meat and dairy, what about that milk that fights climate change in Whole Foods? And so the lead researcher actually notes that one of the most important findings of this study is that across all protein-rich products and milks, even the lowest impact animal products create more emissions and typically take up more land than vegetable products for the same amount of protein. You know what everybody's obsessed with? And so he goes on to say that avoiding consumption of animal products delivers far better environmental benefits than trying to buy sustainable meat and dairy. And here's the mic drop moment. The study found that moving from current diets to diets that exclude animal products would result in reducing food land use by 76%. Food's greenhouse gas emissions would go down by 49%, acidification by 50%, eutrophication by 49%, and scarcity-weighted freshwater usage by 19%. And the effects are even greater if you live in a rich country like the US, which, by the way, I know is where most of y'all are sitting there watching this video from. Because in the US, meat consumption per capita is 3 times the global average, so dietary change could reduce your emissions from food by up to 73%. And before you hit me with that 100 corporations would still produce 70% of the emissions tweet, first of all, PolitiFact, which is this fact-checking organization that's pretty reliable, they've rated that statement as false. And I'll post the article below so you can check it out for yourself. But this study also makes it clear that dietary change from consumers like us can deliver environmental benefits on a scale not achievable by producers. So the good news is that if you feel helpless, this is a rare case where you have a lot of power, and no other change you make could have the same type of impacts that I was discussing earlier.
Used by 76%.
And just why is diet change so impactful? It's because just how resource intensive animal agriculture is. We're talking about magnitudes of difference between animal products and plant products. For example, this study found that animal agriculture takes up 83% of global farmland and is only responsible for 18% of the calories and 37% of the protein. That's not even that much protein. And it's also responsible for all these other impacts you see on this graph. And remember, this is just for 18% of total worldwide calories. That's less than 1/5. And some people say rightfully that, well, not all the land used for animals can be used for plants. And that's true, but according to this study, we'd only need 1/4 of the land that we use right now to feed everyone. We don't have to use all the land that's available to produce something. And the lead researcher also makes it clear that freeing up that land gives us options. So on one hand, if we give the land back to nature, it could remove 8.1 billion metric tons of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere every year for the next 100 years. And that's what makes the greenhouse gas emissions numbers in this study larger than in other studies, because they've only just recently started to include the difference in land use and the carbon sink potential of that in these numbers. And the previous number is if we just give all the land back to nature. The lead researcher also mentions that if we use some of that land to deploy carbon capture technology, we would see even greater benefits. So yeah, that's what they meant by giving us options. And I'll throw up another graph just so you can see the scale of difference between animal products and plant products in terms of emissions in this case. And if you notice here, nuts can even be carbon negative. Or here's another graph with the different types of milk. As you'll see, dairy milk does worse in every category compared to other plant milks. It's even worse than the infamous almond milk that we hear so much about. Because have you ever noticed how companies like Beyond Meat love to flex how environmentally friendly they are with their labeling? Yeah, this is why. So I hope this makes it clear that avoiding animal products isn't this small marginal improvement that you could make. Like I once had a friend tell me, man, I don't need to eat plant-based. I recycle. And I was like, dude, not the same. So what does that mean for you watching this? Well, when I was in that position, I asked myself, do I want to be part of the problem or the solution? And remember, what's so great about eating a plant-based diet and what makes it such a great opportunity to be part of the solution is that it's one of the rare cases where being sustainable is cheaper and a viable option for basically anybody who has access to a grocery store and an internet connection. Like, this isn't shelling out thousands of dollars for an electric vehicle. This is saving money every time you go out to buy beans for your protein and iron source. And so what about going vegetarian? Well, I hope that the graphs from before made it clear that cheese, milk, and eggs are still multiple times worse than similar plant products. Cheese even ranked as the third worst product for greenhouse gas emissions by weight in this previous graph that I showed. And let's not underestimate the power of the group. Right now, almost no one avoids animal products because, well, no one else is doing it. But by eating a plant-based diet, you're not only making an impact yourself, you're also setting an example for everybody around you. And people around you will start thinking, okay, damn, people are really doing something about this. Maybe I should too. So yeah, we have so much power in our daily lives to make a difference for ourselves and to influence others. And you know, there's so many problems out there that it feels amazing that we can actually do something for one of the greatest challenges facing us yet. And that's climate change. And if you've seen my other videos, you know that eating a plant-based diet has been in no way a sacrifice for me. I still eat the same stuff I always did, just vegan versions, and I eat even more different types of foods than before. So yeah, I couldn't recommend the change more. I'll leave y'all with the question. Now knowing all of this, do you really think you can say you care about the environment while continuing to eat animal products? That's something you'll have to decide for yourself. Well, in any case, subscribe to see how wonderful it is to eat a plant-based diet. Don't forget to take your B12 supplement, get your legumes in, and I'll see y'all in the next one.